going back to regular order. Maybe explain that a little bit deeper, like regular order versus not. Because I did a little bit of research just on how long have we been passing. I think there's 12. Are there 12 appropriation bills, right? And we've passed 6 so far.
We've actually passed all 12.
Okay.
So what we did this year is all 12 appropriations bills.
Clearly, I didn't do enough research.
No, it's all right. This is what I'm talking about, though. You have to be an insider to understand it, and that's what I want to move away from.
Yeah.
What we did this year is our appropriations committees moved 12 bills individually through committee. So they were drafted by Republican subcommittee chairs. They had hearings, they had markups, members of Congress had a chance to amend them. They went through regular order that way. Sorry, I'm going to take a swallow because I keep choking on my words. So we had 12 appropriations bills that were going through regular order. And then when it got down to time to vote on them, we didn't. We passed a CR to give us more time because the Senate...
A continuing resolution?
A continuing resolution, yeah. And I voted against every continuing resolution that's come up while I've been a member of the House. I just don't think it's a good way to do business. We're required by the Constitution to pass a budget.
Right.
These spending bills are part of that process. But when we got to the point of voting on the spending bills, what we did is put 6 of them into one bill and the other 6 into another bill. I would have rather take 6 individual votes. But when people are saying there are these thousands of page bills and no one knows what's in them, that's disingenuous to say because they're made up of 6 bills that have been through regular order. We should have gotten them across the finish line in regular order. But we are moving in the direction we need to be moving on with these. And I voted yes on both of them, and I know that's been controversial. So let's talk about it because I would much rather talk about it so that people have good information. And maybe they'll still disagree with my decision, but at least they'll know how I got there. So for starters, Mike Johnson is the most conservative Speaker of the House we've had in my lifetime. He's in there fighting for these conservative wins. And we got some really important wins in those bills. And I thought if we went into a shutdown scenario, we'd never be able to come out of a shutdown with those wins still intact.
Okay, pause real quick. The shutdown scenario. So when I was reading on the budget resolutions, if a budget resolution is not passed, that the funding is basically just defaulted into the previous resolution that is extended, that has a 10-year window. There's you have a projected amount over 10 years is typically what these resolutions are. Am I understanding that correctly?
I'm not sure you are. So if we have a continuing resolution, then we're still operating on last year's budget.
Last year's budget.
But this time around, we negotiated for last year's budget with a 1% cut.
Okay.
So it's a slight cut, but that's what those continuing resolutions we had for several months because we're halfway
on all 6
on all 12.
All 12.
So we're halfway through the fiscal year.
Right.
The federal fiscal year starts October 1st.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's now the end of April.
Right.
So we're already halfway through the year, and we got halfway through the year on those continuing resolutions.
Got it. Okay.
But if we had failed to pass either a continuing resolution or a spending package this last week, then that's when we go into a shutdown scenario where they start freezing.
Got it. Okay. The continuing resolution was the piece that I was missing. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So if we'd have gone into a shutdown, and we've had government shutdowns before. I mean, in our lifetime, we've had, I think, 5 of them. I don't know. You might have to fact check me on that one, but we've had several.
Jeff, you're on.
And usually we go in with some sort of ultimatum. We're shutting down the government until we get X. And so then you've got to hold out while people are panicking because they're not getting paid and government websites are down or whatever.
Right.
Until you get X. We didn't have an X this time. We didn't have anything that we were saying, if we shut down, we're holding line until this thing happens. It was just a general anger with the bill. And I looked through the bill and I felt like there were some things in there that were worth voting yes for. There's always going to be a reason to vote no. Just to be clear, any spending bill, I mean, we're funding the government from now until the end of September.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big number. And there's always going to be something in there that you don't like that you want to vote no over. But I'm just going to open I've got some notes here. I want to make sure I get this part right. So the things that made me decide that I was willing to vote yes on this bill, that isn't the bill I would have wanted. It's not a perfect scenario.
While you pull that up, so Jeff's got, the first shutdown, back to 1975. This seems, in all my research, 1974 and 1975, and Richard Nixon seems to be the start of all of the problems we have in this country. Like from the gold standard to the Congress getting confusing with the budgets. So we have multiple shutdowns. So
ideas were pretty. His nuclear ideas were pretty good, though.
Yeah, well, we didn't do them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So this is Axios. So I mean,
so each one of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 times since 1975, and multiple shutdowns in some of those years. And
Celeste, maybe you have an opinion on this. The actual definition of government shutdown. I mean,
partial shutdown versus full shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in college, my first year of college in 2005, the government shut down and we couldn't get into Gettysburg when I was in college. But it's not listed on here. You know what I mean?
Well, and there's like you say, varying levels of shutdown, and it kind of depends on who's in the White House. So when we had the shutdown during the Obama administration, they went super dramatic and tried to make it hurt as many Americans as they could so that they could get the wins they wanted.
Yeah, twist there.
When we had the shutdown during the Trump era, they tried to keep as many things operating as they could so that we could hold out and get what Republicans wanted. So not all shutdowns are created equally.
Yeah. So what you were looking for?
I can't find the list I'm trying to find, so we might have to just do a quick edit at the end. But some of the things that, the Hyde Amendment, it says that no federal funds can be used for abortion. We got that in all 6 bills. I don't think we'd have the leverage with a 1-vote majority in the House and Democrats holding the Senate and the White House to come out of a shutdown with that still in there. And
is that because the states are passing bills to give their own support to abortions? I mean,
no, it's just because the abortion issue is so controversial right now that it's something that Democrats want to beat us up on, and some Republicans are scared to make it a big issue because it's a tough one to run on. But we kept that rider in there, and that's a really big win. It's a huge conservative win. We also got cuts in 10 of the 12 bills, but the 2 that are increased are Homeland Security, and that's because there's increased funding in there for Border Patrol agents, for ICE detention beds, for new technologies on the border, which is one of the things when I was in Arizona, that's what they desperately need is new technologies on the border and the federal government to pull its weight when it comes to that. But for years, we've had this parity between defense and non-defense spending. So anytime you increase defense spending, non-defense spending has to increase the same amount. One of the biggest wins in this bill that people are not talking about enough is that Speaker Johnson went in and negotiated breaking that parity in a really narrow House majority without the Senate, without the White House. He managed to negotiate a deal where we didn't have to increase non-defense spending. We're behind in defense spending. We needed to give the troops a raise. They haven't had a meaningful raise in 20 years. But we also really need to be investing in our military technology. China is not being shy about the fact that they're trying to outpace us with military technology. And that's the kind of war they're planning on running if they ever have to go to war with us. We've got to keep up. And in a CR, a continuing resolution scenario, we're not. We can't increase that. So this bill did increase that, but we did it while cutting all of the other areas. And that's going to pay off for generations probably.